Jacket is really noisy. Hi everyone, my name is Ebony and welcome back to another video.
Think I know you better to forget her. Certain people made for running. Think I need you more than let you know I'm bored and tell me this means more than nothing.
So today I am going to be doing the Evermore Book Tag. If you didn't know, Taylor Swift recently released a new album, and of course, people made a book tag to go along with that album. I did a similar video like this when Folklore came out. I did the Folklore book tag, which you can check out up above. I just love doing book tags, and I love Taylor Swift, and I love books, so like, this is the perfect video for me to film. So the original creator of this tag is Enchanted Reader, and I will link her original video down below so you guys can check it out. Thank you so much to her for making this tag because this tag is right up my alley. So I don't know if my answers for these prompts have to be books that I already own or if they can be whatever book, but I'm gonna go with books that I own just so I don't have to import a bunch of pictures. So the first prompt is Willow, a book that is a masterpiece. And for that, I have to go with Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I feel like I've talked about this book a lot lately. I read it like 3 times in 2020. I was just like super obsessed with it, even though it wasn't my first time reading it. I reread it this year, and then for whatever reason, I had a really bad book hangover, and so I read it again, and then I read it again. Like, I just like couldn't get over it. I just wanted to read it over and over and over and over and over again. So I would definitely say that that qualifies it to be a masterpiece. And also there is a manga version of this book currently coming out. This is the first volume, and I think they're going to be 4 volumes, and I'm so excited for all of these volumes to come out and just have a new way to consume this story because I absolutely love this book, you guys. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Prompt number 2 is Champagne Problems, a book that caught you off guard. And for me, that book would be Truth and Beauty by Anne Patchett. I actually read this book for a class I took my first semester of college. I definitely wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. So this book is actually a memoir, and if you guys don't know, I don't usually read memoirs. I read them occasionally, like, don't get me wrong. But I think that this was probably the second memoir I'd ever read ever in my life. And I wasn't, like, going into it, I wasn't expecting much because I don't usually like to read nonfiction. But this book took me totally off guard. It was just written so well. The author is a novelist, and you can definitely tell that through the storytelling and the characterization and the plot that is in this book, because it literally felt like I was reading fiction, and then I have to like remind myself that, hey, this actually happened and these are real people. And so I just really enjoyed it like a lot. Like, I think I gave it like 4 stars. It was just really good, and I definitely wasn't expecting to like that. Gold Rush, a book with a gold cover, and I only have a couple of books with a gold cover, so I didn't have that many options, but I went with my foil edition of The Hunger Games just because it is so beautiful, and like, it's really shiny, so like, there's a really bad glare. But just look at it, it's gorgeous. And I do have all 3 of the books in this foil edition, and I really enjoy having them in foil edition because they're so pretty. 'Tis a Damn Season, a winter or Christmas book. So for that, I had to go with Winter Girls. You see what I did there? I actually wouldn't say this is specifically a winter book or a Christmas book. It does take place in winter, but I don't think that the season really has a main impact on the plot. The idea that they're winter girls is more of like a extended metaphor. I just thought that this would be a perfect opportunity to talk about my favorite book. So this book follows the story of a girl named Leah who has anorexia and her best friend Cassie has bulimia. The book starts out with Leah finding out that Cassie has died. And so they were kind of like estranged friends. So like, she's like, oh, well, we weren't friends anymore, so it doesn't matter. But like, it really does matter to her. And so the book kind of follows her trying to cope with the death of her best friend, but also her trying to cope with her eating disorder as well. I've got to say, this is by far the best eating disorder representation I've ever read, and I have read a lot of eating disorder books. I highly recommend this if you're in the right mindset to read something as triggering as an eating disorder book, but it's so good, and the writing style of this is just the best. Tori Anderson does this really cool thing where she like writes a sentence and then like strikes it out, so it kind of like represents that like running thoughts and how like back and forth things in your brain can go, especially if you're a starved teenager. Love this book so much. I will never pass up an opportunity to talk about it. Tolerate It, a problematic book. And for this, I'm gonna have to go with any classic ever. And I feel like that this is a bit of a cop-out, but I do own classics. They are just not on this shelf. They're at my home shelf. because I don't like classics. So why would I put them on my shelf? I don't like them. Basically, I have a lot of issues with classics because I don't like the writing style. I don't like the time periods that they're usually set in, which is like 1800, sometimes before that. I just don't like classics, you guys, and I don't like being forced to read them in classes either. But I think that they're also problematic because they're sort of a product of their time period. You know, they were written in, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, whatever. Back then, there really weren't like many standards, I guess, when it came to what you can and can't write. And of course, our society has come a long way in the way of accepting people of any gender, race, sexual orientation, class, status. Of course, we are nowhere near the perfect acceptance and equality that we could be, but we're definitely a lot further along than the societies were in the time that these classics were written. And so because of that, I think that there is a lot of misogyny and racism and just overall like disrespectfulness for certain groups of people that are written like subliminally into these classics. Obviously they didn't catch it then because it wasn't something that they were like to be looking for, but I don't like reading about it now, especially in a book that I have to read for school. Okay, I'm sorry, I've been going on a really long rant about this, but I just think that classics can be very problematic, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. No Body, No Crime, a mystery or murder investigation. So for that, I'm gonna have to go with Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I read this one recently for the book club that I host, and it was very enjoyable. I liked it. I don't know if I'm gonna continue the series, but it was still an enjoyable murder mystery, and it definitely had me guessing up until the very end. When I was actually trying to pick the book that I was going to use for this prompt, I was having a hard time because I, couldn't find any murder mysteries that I had on my shelf. And I'm like, do I not own any murder mysteries? I have to. I've read a good handful of murder mysteries. I guess I just don't own that many. And then eventually I was like, oh yeah, Stalking Jack the Ripper, that's a murder mystery. And so I went with this one. But I honestly didn't have a lot of options for this, which I hadn't really realized until I went to look for a murder mystery that I don't own that many. So I should buy some more. Leave your favorite murder mystery down below so I can check them out. Happiness, a book about hope. So this one I also had a really hard time with, mostly because I can't really pinpoint a certain book that I have that I would say is about hope. I mean, a lot of books have hopeful aspects, especially ones with mental illness representation where at some points it may be really dark, but there's also hope, usually at the end, in the resolution of the book. But I couldn't think of one that really had an overall theme of hope. So I ended up going with Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and illustrated by Faith Erin Hicks. Mostly because this book is just so cute and lighthearted. I wouldn't say it's necessarily about hope. I mean, I guess Josie is really hopeful that the girl he's trying to date will go out with him. I wouldn't say that the book really focuses on that hope too much. It's more just about Josie and Deja, their time at the pumpkin patch, and their relationship and their friendship. I don't think that it really fits hope, but I think that because the book is so cute and so heartwarming and beautiful and gorgeous and cute, I think that it inspires hope in me. So I think that it fits the prompt in that way. Dorothea, a book to movie adaptation. So for this one, I am going to go with Our Chemical Hearts by Crystal Sutherland, and the movie adaptation is actually just called Chemical Hearts. I believe it is on Amazon Prime, and it does star Lily Reinhart. And I was so excited when I heard that they were making a movie for this because I love this book. I read it, I think, my senior year of high school, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, it is so good and bittersweet and sad and also beautiful. Is one of my favorite books that I've ever read, and I reread it before I watched the movie because I was just so pumped. And then I watched the movie and then I was sad, and not a good sad. That movie was so bad. It was so bad. It totally destroyed the book. I don't even know how to explain what they did wrong. They just did it wrong. The movie was just unwatchable. It didn't have any, I wasn't interested in it at all, and I love this book. That's what blows my mind. I think the movie sort of glossed over the relationship that Henry and Grace have to develop throughout this book, because when Henry first meets Grace, she does not want to talk to him at all, and he's like, come on, I just need you to help me so I can get the position on the newspaper. I think it's newspaper. And of course, she does end up on the newspaper, but and that is how they develop their relationship. But it took a lot of getting to know each other in this book for them to actually develop a relationship, because Grace has a very sad past. I just feel like this book is really slow burn, and the movie sort of just sped through all of it, made it feel unrealistic in the relationship that grew out of it, and like everything just happened so fast in that movie. And I feel like when I read this the first time, it took me so long to like find out what happened in Grace's past that made her like so antisocial and like not want to be with Henry. And the movie, I feel like you found out like super soon, and I just think that the pacing was just really off, and it didn't develop in the way that it should have in order to do the book justice. Also, one other thing, why did they change the movie name to Chemical Hearts? What's wrong with Our Chemical Hearts? I don't get it. Literally, it's one word, our. What? I don't understand. What is the point of changing the movie's name to Chemical Hearts? Like, how is it different? I don't get it. I'm angry. Okay, that was a rant. I will continue with the tag now. Okay, this is a happier prompt. So, Coney Island, a book that brings back memories. For me, that book is Just as Long as We're Together by Judy Blume. I got this book in, I think, 5th or 6th grade. I have read this book, I think, 5 or 6 times, because this book is about 3 girls who are friends and they're going into their 7th grade year. And I was really, really scared when I was going into middle school, just because like it's so different than elementary school. And so when I read this book for the first time and I realized that they were going into 7th grade, I like clung to this book because I was like, I need this book so it'll be like a perfect guide for me to navigate 7th grade and 8th grade. And so like this book was really like a guide for me going into middle school. This book I will always keep. I don't know if I'll ever read it again. I think I would like to someday, maybe do one of those like readathons where you read your favorite childhood books. I don't know, maybe. But like I just will probably always keep it because it was just so important to me during that time period. Ivy, a book you can't help but love or your guilty pleasure read. So for me, that's the Cassidy Blake series by Victoria Schwab. This is the second book. I do have the first book. It's just at home, so I don't have a copy of it here. I love these books. If you didn't know, they are middle grade, and they're about this girl named Cassidy who can see ghosts, and her parents also like have this like ghost hunting TV show that they do, but they don't know that Cassidy can see ghosts, so they're going to all these haunted places and like doing their TV show, but Cassidy is seeing all of these ghosts, so it sort of creates a drama there. But her best friend is also a ghost. It's just a really good series. It's really quick, fast-paced. It's lots of action, lots of mystery, drama. It's just a really good book series, and I'm so excited for the third book to come out in March. I'm so pumped, dude. I can't wait to read that book. Cowboy Like Me, a book you didn't expect to love but did. That book is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. I've talked about this book a lot recently. This was my favorite book that I read in 2020, and so I think that tells you a lot about why I put it for this prompt. I actually picked up this book on audiobook the first time, not knowing what it was about at all. It kind of was just like, ooh, pretty flowers, and so I figured it would be sort of like a fluffy contemporary, so I checked out the audiobook, started listening to it, and it was not a fluffy contemporary. So this book is about a girl named Eden who her freshman year of high school gets raped by her brother's best friend, and the book sort of follows her throughout her 4 years of high school as she's sort of dealing with this trauma of being raped. It is definitely packs a punch. This is the book that I've probably cried the most tears ever in my life. So I think that it definitely fits the prompt of I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and then it ended up being one of my favorites of all time. Long story short, a book that's shorter than 300 pages, and I have several options on my shelf to pick from for this prompt, but I chose Wake by Lisa McMann because this is another one of my favorite books. So this is the first book. It's 210 pages, so under 300 pages. This book series is about a girl named Janie who has this sort of gift slash curse if she's in the room of someone who is sleeping and dreaming, she will fall into their dreams. And of course that makes it difficult for her to like stay at people's houses and stuff, or even be on buses where people are sleeping, because she'll fall into their dreams and she cannot get herself out, and she's actually awake while she's in their dreams, so it like also makes her really, really tired. And so this book kind of is like it's very slice of lifey. It definitely feels like contemporary, except for the fact that she falls in a dream, so it's kind of like magical realism in that way. I just really enjoy this book because it's so like casual with the way it's written, and I feel like a lot of people might have an issue with the writing style because it feels like it's not very like elegant or anything. It's just sort of like, here's what's happening. And so I think that a lot of people might have issues with that because it's like so straight into the point, but also I really enjoy that because it just makes it really quick and you don't have to spend too much time like pondering it, and so it's just really good for if you're looking for a quick read. It's just one of my favorite series of all time. Marjorie, a biography. And so I don't think I actually have any biographies, but I do have memoirs, and I already talked about a memoir, so now I'm talking about the other memoir that I own, which is Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. I actually just got this book. I bought it from my roommate because she had to read it for a class last semester, and so I was like, yes, I want that. I love Laurie Halse Anderson. I have read it, but I listened to the audiobook, which is narrated by Laurie Halse Anderson herself, and so that was a really good listen, but it's been a while, so I really want to read it again, and read it physically this time now that I have a copy. But so I really enjoy this because it is a memoir from one of my favorite authors. Closure, your favorite last book in a series. For me, that series would be Vampire Academy. I don't have the last book with me because it is at home, but I do have the last book, but I'm holding up the first book for convenience. But I just love the Vampire Academy series. Like, I love everything about it. So it's not just that I love the last book. I just love literally everything. I love every single book in the series. And if you didn't know, I am co-hosting a Vampire Academy read-along, and our live show for the second book, Frostbite, is actually on Saturday. It's January 16th. And there's always stuff about the read-along in my description box, but also you can check out the announcement video. So if you are interested in Vampire Academy, you should come check out the live show. And the last prompt is Evermore, a book that was painful to get through. And I do have this book as well. It is at home though. That book is Lucid by Ron Bass and Adrienne Schultz. This book, it fits this prompt because it was probably one of the worst books I've ever read. Basically, one of the biggest problems is I thought that it was going to be about a girl who, when she sleeps, sometimes her alter ego comes out, and then her alter ego is out for like the day, and the alter ego is like evil. That is not what it's about at all. I blame the synopsis on the inside cover because it does not tell you a single thing. It's just like, oh, dreams, and there's a character named Maggie and a character named Sloane. That's all you need to know. And I'm like, no. And so I didn't actually find out what the book was actually about until I looked up a real synopsis on Goodreads. And I found out that the book is not at all what I thought it was about, and it's actually about two different characters, Maggie and Sloane, who when they dream of each other's lives, and eventually they get like so confused on who they actually are and whose life they're actually living, and they like blend together. It was like a really weird book, and sorry for the spoilers, but I don't recommend that you read this book, so hopefully I'm not spoiling too much. But eventually they can't even discern like who they are, and at the very, very end you find out that they're actually the same person all along, and it like this whole like other person thing was like a coping mechanism for something. I honestly have no idea. I was so confused. But like the thing that bothered me the most is that it took so long for the book to actually get anywhere. Like I think I was like 200 pages in before anything started happening about them not being able to figure out like who they are. It was really bad. I don't recommend it, and I'm going to be unhauling it, which is why it's at home and not here. But yeah, that's it for the Evermore book tag. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm sorry there were quite a few rants in this video. I don't know why. I feel like I'm just in that mood to like argue with everybody. Thank you to Enchanted Reader for creating this tag. I had so much fun. If you are watching this and you want to do this tag because this is right up your alley, feel free to do the tag. I'm not going to tag anybody just because I can't think of who I should tag who would like to do this. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you're subscribed down below so you don't miss any future videos from me. And also, if you want to follow me on social media, all the links are in the description box down below as always. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!
All you see is black.